Hello everyone, this is Fireswamp, and today I'll be doing a tutorial and discussion about the Creeper World 4 map I just released, CSM Unabridged. I will start with a tutorial and a starting walkthrough of the map, and for anyone who just wants to skip to the discussion, I will have that marked in the video as well as in the description. So without further ado, let's just get into the map, and for the tutorial, I'm just going to be doing effectively just a walkthrough of the white and yellow sections of the map. So those are the sections which are designated by the color of the stargates. So basically, this area up here and this area down here, basically all the areas connected via yellow stargates or white stargates, as well as the starting island. Anyway, so first things first, I will just emphasize the main strategy behind CSM. Take areas you can take and wall off areas you can't take yet. So we already have a given starting location. In theory, we could move somewhere else, but in practice, these areas are completely unviable, so we're just going to start right here. So now I'm just going to advance a frame because that's what it takes for a lot of this stuff to actually start rendering properly. So we have a bunch of stuff around here. Bunch of stuff is going to be a bit confusing for especially new players to CSM. So what we have, if we just kind of start clicking around, okay, we've got these 5 things labeled Stargate blockers. We've got 4 things labeled Stargate overriders, all 9 of which we can designate targets. We'll get to those later. We don't need those yet. And the other thing is that we are currently connected to something called a super reactor, which thankfully just tells us, connect to me for a power boost. Okay, excellent. So let's just take a look quickly at the CSM basics. Okay, so CSM is a game mode around directing anti-creeper flow to capture enemy emitters, power towers, and other powerful units around the map. So the first thing you'll notice is a complete lack of available weapons. We don't have nullifiers, cannons, mortars, anything. So what we need to do is we need to direct anti-creeper around the map to capture all of the objectives. Okay, and the other thing is that what you'll notice is that, actually I'll close this just so I can emphasize this, is that what we have here, we have these kind of very tiny walls compared to very, very tall creeper. These walls are not proportional. They aren't visual compared to the creeper. Basically, every one layer of wall corresponds to 100 layers of creeper or anti-creeper. So if I go back in here, so yeah, that's exactly what it says in the third paragraph. Every level terrain corresponds to 100 levels of creeper, anti-creeper instead of the default 1. This means that walling off areas map is very effective in stopping creeper from pushing into your territory. But the other thing is that when you have these massive layers of creeper, it becomes very hard to actually see stuff, which is why top-down view is generally recommended. So I'm going to be switching to that once I finish reading through here. So the primary method of terraforming is the torp. Now, what is the torp? If you don't really need to care, it's basically a terp, but for technical reasons, I needed to replace the terp when I was making the map. So it basically works exactly as a normal terp, plus maybe some bugs and unintended mechanics that I've been trying to patch out. I think I got all of them, but as a quick side note, I do still include basically a manual override. There is a detection. Basically, if you hit the custom 0 hotkey, which you can set in your options, it will fix problems. So what can happen? The most common one is that you will have a area of terrain which is marked for terraforming, but the nearby torps refuse to terraform it. This is the primary way it fixes it. It's a state that I know can happen, but detecting whether it can happen would cause massive amounts of lag constantly. So what this does is basically you hit the button and it will run it once just to fix everything, and then it puts it back into a state where everything should be working properly. Okay, so that's kind of the introduction, but we haven't really gotten into what the meat of the CSM, like what's our main goal. So basically it kind of comes down to the 4 emitter types which are around the map. The AC emitter, the flip emitter, the creeper emitter, and the boss emitter. However, we also have these what are known as power towers. So AC emitters are pretty simple. They emit AC. Simple. Flip emitters, they will almost always start off by producing creeper. However, if you flood them with anti-creeper, they will then flip to start producing anti-creeper. The third type are the creeper emitters. These are constantly producing creeper, and instead of flipping when they are exposed to anti-creeper, they are destroyed. So, and actually, sorry, one last thing, the boss emitters, they work very similar to the creeper emitters, but they have multiple lives, so you have to kill them multiple times. I will also note that both the creeper and boss emitters, whenever they lose a life, will spew out a ton of creeper in a decent area. So that can push you back often. And the last thing about the boss emitter is that it increases the production of all emitters in range. So I'll actually show that one off quickly. But before then, I will point out the most important element of the map, I'm going to say the most important thing you want to be capturing are the power towers. So you can kind of see them off to the side here. This is one of the power towers. This one's inactive because it's kind of a dark green. You can actually see the icon here. So this is what they're going to look like in top down. So this dark green is inactive. This light green is active. Active power towers will increase the anti-creeper production of all friendly emitters on the map, both friendly flip emitters and AC emitters. So what you want to do, your main idea should be to expose as many of these power towers to anti-creeper as possible. Okay, so let's first switch into top-down view. Okay, and now, before we kind of get into all of the other things, we're just going to let the map go for a bit, just because, well, we don't have access to anything else. So, but we do need to start building torps to terraform. Ignore the fact that I'm placing terps. This is, again, just some technical stuff. Basically, eventually, so right now you can see this power tower up here is captured. Now the text is getting in a bit of the way. So, actually, I think I probably forgot to explicitly draw attention to this. If you mouse over the emitters, a text pop-up will tell you the stats of the unit. So the short version is that the first two numbers are the amount they create, the cap, and every X, where in this case 15. 15 is the number of frames between how much they'll emit. So what this is the AC emitter will produce 22 anti-creeper. It's negative, so it's anti-creeper. With a cap of 35. It cannot exceed 35 units. So if there's 20 units of anti-creeper there, it will only add 15 as opposed to the 22 because it can only go up to 35. And it will do this every 15 frames. There are 30 frames in a second, so we'll do this twice a second. The flip emitters here only produce 15 as opposed to the 22 of the AC emitter. And they only produce it once every 30 frames, so once a second, and they only have a cap of 22. So now we have a bunch of emitters here. And now we need to figure out, okay, well, where are we going? So I'm going to go back to the initial rule. So the initial thing I said with CSM is you take the areas you can take and wall off the areas you can't yet take. General rule, if your production is higher, you can usually push in, but you generally want to be a bit higher than what you're actually assaulting. So what you have here is minus 22 on the AC emitter. That's the most powerful one you have. And if you kind of look around, okay, this is a 30-30. We can't assault this. This is too powerful. Now, we don't know what these are, but we'll get to that in a minute. But we'll just kind of look around. Okay, we've got some 10-15s, some 15-25s, so we don't want to push into the 15-25s yet because we can push into the 10-15s. They're weaker, so they're easier to attack. So let's... it would help if I actually set up the terraforming correctly. So let's start pushing into these 10-15s. But you notice we also have a 10-15 over here. So, but we have this weird thing in the way. So let's just ignore the overrider. Let's just put that over on the side for now. We don't need that. So what is this? Well, if we click on it, it's called an absorber. Well, we have one of the tutorials for the absorber. So let's just take a quick look and let's let's see what we can glean from this. So absorbers are actually a very simple unit. The idea is that they eat anti-creeper, and once they're full, they will destroy themselves and leave behind a power tower, an anti-creeper emitter, or nothing. Okay, so that seems simple enough. Let's just take a look at this one. So this one, we need to feed it 300 anti-creeper, and then it will produce a power tower. Well, that sounds great. Power towers are great units. So we absolutely want to push into these, right? So let's do that. Let's wait until we're done assaulting this. Okay. So once we have this, it will turn a lighter yellow, which signals that it's ours. So now we can start pushing into the other areas. So let's just build some extra terps or torps. And now this is going to slowly fill up. And once it's full, we're going to be getting another power tower. Okay, so let's just quickly go through and let's take the other two areas, which we kind of designated as having weak emitters. And now that we have this, we're slightly more powerful. So, you know, split pushing becomes faster and a much more reliable thing. Yeah, if you split push too much, if you split push too much, you can basically end up with the case of the creeper production will be pushing into more, the creeper production will be higher than your anti-creeper production, which will then mean that you're going to be the one pushed back. Okay, so now we've taken all of these areas. We have 3 power towers. We're doing great. We've got 25 production, 36. Now, we could assault this emitter, but it's kind of a bit powerful. You generally want to attack the weakest things you can. And if we look around, we've got some 1525s. And in here, in fact, we've got 2 solo 1525s, like all alone. Whereas this one, we've got 2 emitters with 1525. So the weakest area is this one right here. But this one's kind of guarded by some weird thing that we haven't seen before. So let's take a look. This is called a Stargate. Well, conveniently, we have a tutorial. We have an in-game documentation for this. So let's see. Stargates and their support units are basically just one of the most common units in CSM. Basically, they average out the creeper or anti-creeper between them. As far as mechanics go. If you don't really care about mechanics, just pretend all of the Stargates are adjacent as far as creeper flow is concerned. So, but this also will introduce us to the Stargate Overrider and the Stargate Blocker. The Stargate Overrider will change what network a Stargate is on. The Overriders are on their own network, so basically we have 2 Stargate Overriders on Network 1 and 2 Stargate Overriders on Network 2. If we put the 2 Network 1 Overriders on Stargate A and Stargate B, it doesn't matter. Stargate A will be connected to Stargate B, and they will be connected to nothing else on the map. And then we have the Network 2 Stargate Overriders. So we can make basically 2 pairs of Stargates which are connected to each other and nothing else. And the other thing that we had were 5 Stargate blockers. These just prevent the Stargates from functioning. Now, to actually designate a target, you basically just put this target on an actual Stargate, and the unit does need to physically fly there. Okay, so we wanted to attack these, but, you know, if we kind of look, okay, this Stargate is connected to here, which has a lot of production. It's connected to here, which has a lot more production. Here, which has production. Here, it's connected to a lot of things and a lot of production behind them. But we don't need to worry about that. We just take the blocker, we put it on here, we wait for it to fly over, and actually in the meantime I'm going to fly this one over here. I'm just going to put all the blockers on all of the yellow Stargates for our network. So for this map, you can kind of choose whether to assault white or yellow first. They both work. I'm choosing to assault yellow first just because I want to play with orbitals. Okay, so we wait for those blockers, and now this yellow Stargate is blocked. It does not function. So now what we're going to do is we're going to terp this in such a way that we can access this, but we don't need to push into this. We'll deal with what this is in a minute. But anyway, so we're going to push into here first. we're going to take this emitter, and then I'm actually going to push into this area next, because what we have down here is an absorber with a power tower, and power towers are really good. We want to capture as many of those as possible, as those basically give us our power for this. I will say that for this mission, for anyone who just is curious about the mathematics, every power tower you get will increase the power of all flip emitters, all friendly flip emitters, by 5 production, and also increase their cap by, I believe, 7. And then the AC emitters are 7 and... is it 10? Yeah, it's 10. Anyway, so we've taken this area, and we don't need to worry about this. We've got a Stargate blocker right here. And now I'm going to pop open this area. Now, what I will say right now is I will say that when I was making... This is probably one of the biggest mistakes I made when I was making the map. So the short version is that the intended strategy I had for dealing with the Stargates, basically, especially on this starting island, was... the entire idea was for you to use the Stargate blockers to block off all of these Stargates until you had enough production to assault the entire network. And also, basically, once you took over this island, you could then basically just push into these areas over here without too much difficulty. The problem is that for players who are new to CSM, this was unreasonable. It was not reasonable for players new to CSM to figure out that strategy quickly. So that was a mistake on my part. But what I will say is, remember that strategy. The idea of taking over enough points on the network that you can just directly assault the network, or basically just block off enough parts of the network that you can take over the areas surrounding them, and then unblock them all at once to assault the network. That is kind of the core... That's just basically the baseline strategy for attacking these Stargate networks. Okay. So now we're looking... Okay, now we're starting to look at, 30 production across these things. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to bust open these areas to the blue emitter down here, and that'll get us access to something else. Actually, well, while we're waiting on that, so while that is slowly building down, I'm going to start explaining these things. So this is a bridge controller, and it's pointing to these things. These things are bridges, and, well, we have some in-game documentation for those. The short version is that if you click on the bridge controllers, so if you see this, we have an option for flip bridges. We actually, this is something that I intend to fix for later versions. The flip bridges button appears even on these ones, but when there's a green sphere on the unit, it can be flipped. So if I hit this flip bridges button, it will switch the state. So this -13 will switch from terrain height 1 to void, and the bridge right here will switch from void to terrain height 1. So this will let us start pushing into this area. So we're going to want to hit this at some point so we can actually get access to this area and the last area, the last part of this island. Or, well, we also have this part. I should have just let that go so I could be a little bit more close to actually finishing this. But anyway, so yeah, once we push into this, I'm going to actually start. So let's turn that on, turn that on. Okay, so this finally detonated. This creeper. So one of the things that I mentioned is that, or did I mention this? I might have forgotten to mention this, but when creeper emitters or boss emitters die, they leave behind an urn. So I'm just going to put that in fire range just because, and I'm just going to start placing down some torps. Okay, so at this point, we've kind of run out of things we can assault here. So actually, I'm just going to start placing these so I can get the red on. Its primary use for red on is making MRIFs, especially on these large maps. This is the only way you're going to reasonably get power over here. But anyway, so at this point, I'm going to flip these bridges. So that closed off this area, but opened up this area. And I think that the other thing... I feel like I'm forgetting something. Maybe, but I don't know. I'm going to take this excess Stargate blocker I have here, and I am going to place it on here. This white Stargate, and this is specifically so that I can go over here and I can knock out these areas and get access to this absorber because it has a power tower in it. And while waiting on this, we come back over here and we notice, okay, so we're about to take this, we're about to get another power tower, we're getting this. Now, if you kind of look, we have another creeper emitter here, but it's 6090. We can't assault this yet, so again, we just won't. Okay, and we have one more area of the yellow network on this main island that we haven't yet broken into, so we're going to push into here, take out this creeper emitter, get this power tower, and then we're going to have enough that we can actually assault the yellow network with ease. I hope. Okay. So now we have this area. Okay, yeah, I did fix that. I'm going to start setting up pylons because those are going to be useful. But for right now, what was oh yeah, I was waiting on this. So this is just kind of going to be a bit of a slow push because this is kind of a powerful emitter at the end of a long hallway. So it just takes a while to actually push into this thing, unfortunately. Okay, and I'm also just going to start getting some torps placed in this area. So what I'm actually going to do, because I think I have range and I have the power of foresight, I'm just going to set these areas up. I'm going to see if I can fill in these holes. Okay, so we've killed this, we've got another urn, and I'm going to earn a terp over here because, well, then he gets a massive range increase. Okay, and while we're here, I'm going to build a tower here because then we connect to the reactor. I guess we really don't have power issues, but if we did, this is how we would fix them, by connecting to these reactors. So at this point, now we kind of have control over 4 nodes of the yellow network, but they're all blocked off. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to pause, and we are going to take all of these off. We're going to move, actually we're going to move these two, and we're going to take these two, and we're just going to place them We're just going to place them over at the white network because we want to assault the white network next. So what's going to happen is all of these areas are suddenly connected. So you're going to see anti-creeper start flowing out of the yellow network here. But now these ones are blocked. So it's going to all focus over here. And the reason we do this is now we're not fighting a 4-on-4 because there were 4 yellow nodes over here. We would be fighting a 4-on-4 in that case. And there are some powerful emitters in here. We don't want to fight an even fight. We want to do a fight where we have the advantage. So we're going to do exactly that. We are basically just using these blockers to make it so we're fighting effectively kind of a 4-on-2 almost. Okay. This is actually taking longer. But anyway, so now with these areas taken, once we get this power tower, once we have all this area, now what we can do is we can take these blockers and we can move them somewhere else. Whatever. You go there for now. Okay, so now we're not fighting so instead of fighting a 4-on-4, we fought a 4-on-2, and now we're fighting a 6-on-2. Now, actually, while I'm here, and because, again, I have the power of foresight, of knowing the map, I'm going to build a pair of refineries here. And that is because I'm going to want this green art. And the other thing is I'm going to place down the rockets here. I don't think I'll get an opportunity to... Actually, I could build one. Can I get the other? I'd be very optimistic, but actually, I think it'd be fine. Anyway, so the other thing is that we're going to get access to this thing right here. What this was is this was an orbital pickup. So now we actually have 2 orbitals, and we can actually use these on these options in the air tab. But well, there's actually some documentation on it. Okay. So let's read up. So orbitals are a very powerful set, are a set of very powerful abilities that use orbital points similar to orbitals in the base game. There are 5 types of orbitals, all of which can be deployed from the air tab of the top left UI menu. The cost of these units is shown on the top left of the unit icon. Basically just uses the liftic cost. So if you see it requests 3 liftic, it requires 3 orbital points to use. Okay, so the other thing is that the rocket builds orbitals as it would normally. However, those orbitals just get converted over to CSM orbitals. The other change is that the cost of the rocket, although I can't adjust it in the UI, I can change how much it effectively costs. It costs only 200. It only costs 200 energy to build as opposed to the usual 500. And the amount of ammo per rocket is not changed, though. And the other thing, the thing that we were kind of picking up, those yellow kind of weird things, the weird square things, if you go into 3D view, they're kind of like very flattened pyramids. Those grant orbitals whenever you collect them, and to collect them, you need to connect to them from your Rift Lab. So you need to actually build out a tower or pylon network to connect to them. And what was the other one? Oh yeah, so there are 5 orbitals currently in CSM, and they are as follows. The suppress orbital halves the creep production of all enemy emitters in a 10 block radius for 20 seconds. The augment emitter increases anti-creep production for all friendly emitters by 75% in a 10 block radius for 20 seconds. The wall orbital generates a circle of radius 10 consisting of walls. These walls last for 30 seconds. The terrain orbital, my personal favorite, it converts all unoccupied void, so it can't affect bridges, all unoccupied void in a 7x7 square centered around where you place it. It converts void to level 1 terrain. And then kind of the more direct damage one, the drain orbital, it reduces the creeper level of all tiles within 8 blocks by 5%. Every 3 times per second for 10 seconds. So what it does is so if there's 100 creeper, it'll reduce to 95, and then it'll reduce to something slightly above 90, whatever 95 times 0.95 is. And then again, it's basically just gonna keep reducing by 5% of whatever's there, 3 times a second for 10 seconds. So we'll do this 30 times. Now, the other thing I'm going to mention, if you actually check in the UI at the top left, you'll see this build limit of 1. This is mostly to prevent people from accidentally, dragging and just being like, I want to place 1, oops. Now, the other thing is that I specifically place terrain. I do not have the orbitals to place a terrain, so it will just fizzle out and do nothing. But the important thing is that when I placed it, you saw that the limit didn't change. I could still build another one. That's just basically some code that prevents people from drag placing 12 of them by accident and just destroying their entire orbital count. Anyway, so let's just let the map progress, because at this point we're kind of just need to be waiting for stuff. So let's start building these. Let's get this going. And now we're going to want to terraform this. So that's why we put the Ernst Torp over here, so that way it could actually reach over here. And let's see, so right now on this island, we kind of got 70 production. Over here, we've got a 50, 70. I'll take this just for a quick demonstration of something. But anyway, so while this is all building up, we're going to be getting orbitals. So I'm just going to wait for those orbitals and the rockets to be finished. Is there anything else in the... Oh, I've got an urn. So I'm just going to shove that. Let's go fire rate, and let's earn you. Okay, so now as you can see, we've taken this area, but the important one I want to differentiate is if you kind of look over here, we get access to the bridge controller for node 6. If you look, okay, so right over here we've got production of like 70 for most of these emitters, and across the bridge there are production of 100. Now, using some complicated maths, we can figure out that 100 is in fact bigger than 70. And what this tells us is that if we open this up, we're not the ones going to be doing the assaulting. We're going to be the ones getting assaulted. So let's just not open this. We don't want to open this. Again, I think, back to the core idea of CSM. Attack the areas you can take, and don't attack the areas you can't take yet. So. Oh, I should just let this go. Well, anyway, so. At this point, we're actually powerful enough. We've blocked off most of the white network. So what we're going to do is we're just going to basically just knock all of these areas down. And we're just going to take over the white network in very much a similar way we did the yellow network. And all the while, we're just waiting for this to kind of finish pushing in. Where to put the Stargate blocker? So 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I put one over here just because I didn't want to assault this immediately. I think I'll go over the kind of the main idea behind this Stargate overriders. The way that I like to use them is I like to take an emitter that's on a network that I fully control, like yellow. So yellow I have under my firm control. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place this overrider right here, this overrider right here, and right now what I have is this overrider, whatever I connect to will suddenly be adjacent to this, which is a very powerful, which is, which is on a Stargate, which it has some very powerful emitters close by. So if I just place this Stargate overrider over here on this white network, I don't yet control white, or, I kind of do, but I haven't unlocked the blocker. So I'm just going to flip this so that way I'll start taking over this quickly. But the important thing is that I place these here, so now you can see these two are connected, and now I'm pushing into this area, despite the fact that I'm not yet pushing into white territory. So I can also take this one, and let's just assault right here. And you know what? This is going too slow. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the augment, and I'm just going to place this right here, because this is now going to massively increase. So I say massively, but it's going to give me a huge increase to my production for these, which are all fueling into this, which is going to help me take over this area. And you can see a bunch of creepers now. The creeper's been pushed back, and now I can take these areas. And now I also have control of these areas over these areas for the white Stargates. So I'm going to unblock them, and I'm going to watch the creeper burst forth from these 2 points over here, because I blocked this one. And now that I have this area and this area, I'm going to move this Stargate over here. And this one, this absorber actually will give us an AC emitter. And remember, AC emitters scale a lot better than the flip emitters. Okay, so at this point, yeah, I think I've mostly covered all the things I wanted to, and I think that I've given enough context to get started. So does this actually, yeah, this, oh. Anyway, so basically at this point, it's more of the same. It's more of the same. Once you get started, everything kind of gets a lot smoother from here. So usual thing, just build torps over here so you can terraform things, and then exactly as I was saying earlier, push into the areas you can. Don't push into the areas you can't push into. Actually, one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this opportunity to just kind of show how to access some weird things. So with this emitter, we would like this area so we can build a third rocket. Although right now we can't fuel it, but if we actually earn these, and then we earn mine production, we can actually sustain 3 rockets with this. So this will increase our orbital production. But yeah, I'm honestly mostly just killing time while I'm waiting for the white area to be finished, and then I think that's just basically going to end the tutorial of sorry. So yeah, that's just going to mostly end the kind of starter guide of like, this is just an opening of how to start, of one way to start the CSM. Between the white and the yellow areas, so yeah, you can start with white. I think like in my run I started with white just because I prefer power towers over orbitals in terms of ease of use, but the orbitals are way more fun. So, but I will say both yellow and white are completely viable starts. Just be careful what you open and what you just make sure you don't immediately accidentally connect to something way more powerful than you can take on, like, you know, this 500 emitter. In theory, I could put a terrain right here. In practice, that would basically, it would make the game very difficult if I did this. But anyway, so I think that that's probably a good stopping off point, and realistically from here, your emitters are now powerful enough. You can kind of push like your 3 options are really push 14, 15, or 6. Where's 6? Over here. That'll give you access to the orange network. The orange network kind of is your next goal regardless of what you do. And then from there you can kind of pick between pink and black, and then, you know, you'll usually want green before blue, but you can do blue before green, and generally red is the last area you're going to assault. But that is kind of, I think that should be enough information to get people started. And with that, I think I'm just going to jump into the discussion. Okay, so the first thing I'll really say is this map is a bit of a mess, and I'm not talking like for multiple reasons. The main thing, and it was kind of, to an extent, this is a mistake, but I had accidentally made the start the hardest part of the map, and I'll get into a bit of reason why that happened. But in addition to that, like there's so many features which are poorly implemented. There are things which, behind the scenes, are basically held together by duct tape and toothpicks. But the tutorial, there's a few other things. I'll get into the details. So the main thing is I want a bunch of feedback on where I'm going with CSM. Like, what am I going to do with it? The first one is kind of the major one. It's going to be all the new mechanics. I guess also, to a lesser extent, the old ones. So I think I'll probably actually include Stargates in this. But, let's just start with the new ones. So orbitals, I'm actually very happy with how the orbitals turned out. The one exception is the range indicator, which is, it works for terrain because, it's not going to affect the height 1 terrain, so, it doesn't render on there. But, you want to, I want to augment this area with all of my stuff. Well, I mean, if I place this here, question, if I wanted to place this here, don't question why, because it doesn't hit anything in the north, would it affect this southern emitter? And that was kind of mostly just because this was a last-minute addition. But, so I'm hoping, I know, I have ideas how to fix this, but it's kind of really awkward. It's, short answer is it's a bit awkward to fix. I know how to fix that. That's not going to be in, that's not planned to be in future versions. The bridges, they work fine. I'm happy enough with them, and I think that they are simple enough that I'm not too concerned with them. Everything works, with the exception of there's some features that I would like to add that just aren't here yet. Like, one of the ones is, right now if you have any, if I put multiple controllers on 6, if you control any one of them, you can get them. I would like to switch that over so I can make it one of those you need to control all the controllers to gain access to bridge to be able to manipulate what bridges are on or off. The last one is the absorbers. They actually worked out better than I thought, but I think they're kind of redundant. I feel like I think I want to use them as placement for AC emitters more so than, because I was using them as mostly just power towers of you just dump AC into them and just turn them into power towers. But the values, I think this might just been balanced, but they were so low they basically just turned into power towers with extra steps, and it's just complicating the map for no good reason. I think I'm gonna try playing more around with having them contain AC emitters or other powerful effects, like maybe. Do I want to put orbitals in there? Again, that kind of just steps on the orbital pickups. So it's I don't really know what I'm doing with absorbers. If anyone has any ideas with them, or any ideas with anything else, any of the other things I mentioned, absolutely mention them in either the comments of this video or on the forums. What are the other? Oh yeah, I want to actually discuss Stargates, because Stargates, they are decently complicated, but they're so central to CSM. I think I was kind of contemplating removing them because I do have a way of actually making CSM work without them, but the problem is that it requires actual good level design, and I am terrible at that. So, probably not a great idea to remove one of the few things keeping things, basically allowing me to do dumb things when I'm creating level and have it still work. Otherwise, I have to actually lay out the level properly and plan things out, which I'm terrible at. But yeah, so those are kind of all the main, those are all the secondary features. The main features of the emitters that I don't think those are gonna, I don't think that's gonna see too many changes other than maybe the boss emitter. Yeah, the boss emitter I need to actually add an aura to. That's on the list of things to do, but I just never did. What am I missing? I think that's all the main like mechanical pieces. Uh, yeah, if there are any changes people can think of, because there's a lot of stuff with this, I just don't know what to do. And I'll actually get into one of the main. Actually, you want to know? I'll probably mention this now. One of the main things that I was thinking is that with CSM, in Creeper World 3, CSM basically had massive feature creep, to the point of if anyone who was new to CSM wanted to get into it, you basically need to do like an hour of research. It's like, that's not viable. Like, the tutorial video I just did was 30 minutes. Mind you, that was bloated because I kept forgetting kept forgetting what I wanted to do and a bunch of other things. But it was like this is trimmed down compared to Creeper World 3, and it was still a solid 20 minutes for me to go through and it would still be a solid 10-15 minutes for me to actually go through and explain everything, with an actual demonstration. If I'd done it properly, it would have been 20 minutes. What else was there? But sorry, yeah. So but with Creeper World 4, I want to keep the number of features low, or have all the features kind of be very intuitive, so everything kind of basically new players are not completely overwhelmed if they want to start playing CSM. Like, there is a reasonable progression of like, oh yeah, just do this, and then you'll kind of have all of the mechanics fully understood. So the other kind of thing is like, how do we make, like, is there an easy way to make better documentation or or tutorials? Because I had done in-game tutorials specifically because most people don't know, and this is something I need to actually go fix. I'll probably go fix this afterwards. Is that what you can do is if you select a unit, you can hit H to open it in the wiki. I'm going to fix the fact that these currently go nowhere. I'm going to send those to. I'm going to send all of these units to the orbitals CPAC explanation, so it just tells you what all the orbitals do, etc., etc. But I have no idea how to make like good in-game documentation. Like, I was happy with this, like the tutorials, although you can't, even if you click these again, I need to turn these red once you click them, that way you can't reopen them. Is there a way to reopen orbitals? But anyways, you can still access all of them from the ADA log. Like, I'm not super happy with this, but I'm happy enough with the in-game documentation. The biggest problem with it is that it can't be easily transferred from map to map. So basically, if someone wants to make their own version of CSM, it's just like, oh, okay, so what do you do with the tutorial? Well, you basically need to go into the editor, open the ADA log, open these tutorials, grab all this text, copy it over. Okay, so this one it works fine, but let's go over here. And okay, so actually no, let's go tutorial 1. Okay, so we need to copy this one. We need to get this image, extract it, or just get it from another source, implement this image. Then I need to grab this text. Then I need to grab this text, and it's basically just 5 minutes of work to implement just the tutorial. When for most other features, it's literally just import the CPAC and everything works, which is what I would prefer. But of course, there's a huge amount of problems. Like, I would love it to just be the wiki, but then you have the problem of how many people actually know the wiki is a thing. It's like, for all these things, it's like, okay, yeah, it's on the wiki. How many people just don't know what the wiki is or how to access it? Because we have the wiki button H. Most people I know do not know that button exists, or most people I've like talked to about this just say, oh yeah, I didn't even know that button existed. So I don't want to use it if I can do something a lot more obvious like these tutorial buttons. But yeah, I think I've said enough on that to get the discussion started. What's the other thing? Oh yeah, so the last thing that I kind of want to discuss is kind of the map layout. So with this map, I tried to make the map a bit less linear. And that was, you could assault white first, you could assault yellow first. Both are completely viable. And then once you get to orange, you go 14, 15, or 6. All are completely viable paths. And then after that, oh, well, you can go to pink or you can go to black. And finally, like, you go green first, you go blue first. Like, whenever I started to implement this whole kind of, there's multiple networks that are kind of the same power level, what ended up happening is that because of how the networks kind of work and you want to be backed up by your overriders and your blockers, you generally only assaulted one at a time. And what this meant is that one of two things would happen, usually both. It was the first network you assaulted was way too hard, and then the second network you assaulted was way too easy. So that's one of the things that actually caused so many problems of this early game, is that I was kind of trying to balance this so that, you could assault one side first or the other, and I just completely didn't even think that like the first network you assault would be way too hard, especially as the very first network you have to assault for anyone who's new to CSM. So I just don't know how to deal with basically having the level be non-linear. Like what I'm thinking right now, just basically off of how this played out, I might have some non-linearity, like, oh yeah, green versus blue, like right near the end of the level where you have orbitals anyway, so balance is already out the window. And the other possibility is just to not have it, and just to not have it like be intentionally designed. And the entire idea is like, oh, if people want to start basically breaking the, like basically doing sequence breaks, just being like, I want to assault red without assaulting blue, despite the fact that blue's the only access point. Sure, terrain orbital right here, done. Or like 3 of them. Have fun. So, the question of, do I want to just have that be the way that people do non-linearity in this game, or do I just abandon the idea of the networks not having a set order entirely? But there's a lot of things with that I just don't know what exactly I should be doing, like, because whenever I tried, it just seemed to not work. Is that everything I wanted to really mention? This video is already massively long. Checking through my notes, I think that I've mentioned everything that I wanted to. Yeah, the only thing is just... Yeah, nothing else really that I wanted to discuss that I'm seeing in my notes. I could very easily have just forgotten things, both in my notes, both I just forgot to write it down, or I just don't even see it in my notes. So yeah, if there's anything else that people want to mention about the map, comments below or on the Knucklecracker forums. With that, I think that is everything. So goodbye and have a great day, and good luck with the map.